Shabbat Shalom. We will begin in just a few seconds, actually. Shabbat Shalom. It's my honor to welcome you to Temple Sinai Erev Shabbat services this evening. All of you here in our sanctuary, it's wonderful to see smiling eyes and smiling faces. And welcome everyone at home on our streaming service. My name is Lynn Weinstein. I am co-president of our congregation along with Betty Adams. And just a few welcoming announcements before we start our worship. Tonight's Erev Shabbat worship services are sponsored by Judy and Bob Shoemaker in celebration of their 50th wedding anniversary. Helene and Sydney Wartell in honor of Judy and Bob Shoemaker's 50th wedding anniversary. Joyce and Jerry Simon in honor of their 58th wedding anniversary. Mazel tov to both of our couples. Harriet Meyer in memory of Morton Meyer. Shelley Teitelbaum in memory of Betty Teitelbaum. Cheryl and Howard Katz in memory of Cheryl's beloved father, Herb Soroka. Jo Ellen Pearl Siegel in memory of her beloved husband, Stephen D. Siegel. Betty and Eric Adams in memory of Shirley Becker and Herbert Friedman. Bonnie and James Hernan in memory of Bonnie's beloved mother, Phyllis Addis. May all of their memories be for blessing. The following donations to the Community Food Bank have been sponsored by Howard Cohn in memory of his beloved mother, Lillian Cohn, and Joellen Pearl Siegel in memory of her beloved husband, Stephen D. Siegel. Tomorrow's Torah study, which begins at noon on our Zoom channel, is sponsored by Doreen Solkoff in honor of Judy and Bob Shoemaker's wedding anniversary. Joellen Pearl Siegel in memory of her beloved husband, Stephen Siegel. Elaine and Norman Pollock in memory of Harriet Sokol. Linda Tronfeld in memory of Milton Tronfeld. Betty and Eric Adams in memory of Shirley Becker, Betty's beloved mother, and Herbert Friedman. Leslie and Michael Eischen in memory of Michael's wonderful and loving dad, Alexander Cohen. And Bonnie and James Hernan in memory of Bonnie's mother, Phyllis Addis. It's now my honor to welcome Rabbi Aviva back from vacation, along with Cantor Jake, and Dr. David, our musical accompanist. Shabbat Shalom.
And so now I'd like to invite the happy couple, the golden wedding anniversary couple, the Shoemakers, Bob and Judy, to please come up and honor us with the candle lighting and the kiddush. And this should be on. Let's make sure. Yep, here we go.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, as these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahavah v'ratzon hinhir lanu, zikaron le'maaseh b'reishit, ki hu yom techilah lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'chata v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodeshecha be'ahava u'beratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. So before you go, I'd like to give you a blessing on this special occasion for your golden wedding anniversary. O God, eternal source of blessing, we turn to you in gratitude for the strength and devotion that have persevered and sustained this bridegroom and this bride for all of these many years, Bob and Judy Shoemaker, and permitted them to reach this sacred hour. In the midst of family and loved ones, they look back upon the years that have passed since they first pledged themselves to one another. Many and varied have been their experiences since that day. Many have been the mingled occasions of victory and defeat, of fulfillment and disappointment. They recall the joys that graced their days with light and beauty, but they also remember the dark storms that shook them. In joys and trials alike, O God, you have been with them. So may you continue to be with them, guiding and sustaining them for many years to come. Bob and Judy, may God bless you with health and contentment in the circle of your family and all of your loved ones near and far. And we all say, Amen.
Amen.
Before you go, we'd like to give you this priestly benediction.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yismerecha.
Kain Yehiratzon, may God bless you and keep you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's presence shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
Kain Yehiratzon, may God's presence be with you and give you peace now and always. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
Consider yourselves hugged. This is possibly the hardest part because you feel like you want to hug everybody, but mwah, mwah, mwah.
Oh, you too.
Okay, okay. Thank you. And now let's start with a song. I can't tell you how wonderful I almost cried. I had to keep it together, but to hear all of your voices is just beautiful. It's so beautiful to hear people in our sanctuary again. So please join us singing. If you don't know the words, sing it on La La. It always works. We're going to start with a song, Ma Yafeh Hayom, which is how great, how beautiful this day. Oh, page 129 if you wish to look at the words.
Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat shalom. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Ma yafeh hayom. Shabbat shalom. Ma yafeh hayom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Ma yafeh hayom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
In Svat, in Israel, in the 16th century, the Kabbalists, the Jewish mystics, would go out into the fields to greet Shabbat. And they would sing this special song that we have sung every Shabbat ever since in most congregations. And that is Lecha Dodi on page 138. And we will not sing every verse tonight. So what verses shall we sing?
Well, if there's anybody that has a sort of feeling either way in our congregation, I think they would start the Lecha Dodi experience with verse 1, and then follow that with verse 2. Going to go ahead and move on to verse 5. What? Oh, yeah, 5, of course. Just kidding. And then closing it out with verse 9. Wouldn't have it any other way, especially because it's the last verse. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaredai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaredai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem u'l'tiferet ve'letehila Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaredai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaredai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mekedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machsheva tehila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaredai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaredai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, hitoreri, Ore kumi uri, uri uri, shir daveri, kevod Adonai alaich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kalai, yadadai, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kalai, yadadai, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uvzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kalai, yadadai, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kalai, yadadai, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
So please remain standing if you are able as we turn to page 146 for the call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
Yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Arechu et Adonai hamivorach. Arechu et Adonai hamivorach. Baruch Adonai hamivorach leolam vaed. Baruch Adonai hamivorach leolam vaed. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai.
Please take a seat. The following reading is not in your prayer book, but it is an interpretation. Actually, it's a poem, but I think of it as an interpretation of the Ma'ariv Aravim prayer, which, of course, is a prayer about the creation, about God as creator. This is a poem by David Ignato, In No Way. I am of the family of the universe, and with all of us together, I do not fear being alone. I can reach out and touch a rock or a hand, or dip my feet in the water. Always there is somebody close by, and when I speak, I am answered by a plane's roar, or the birds whistling, or the voices of others in conversation far apart from me. When I lie down to sleep, I am in the company of stars. Breathe to me, sheep in the meadow, sun and moon, my father and my father's brother. Kiss me on the brow with your light. My sister earth holds me up to be kissed. Sun and moon, I smile at you both, and spread my arms in affection and lay myself down at full length for the earth to know I love it too, and am never to be separated from it. In no way shall death part us. And of course, all of this comes from our Creator, whom we acknowledge with the closing of this blessing, the Ma'ariv Aravim on page 148 at the bottom. We say together the Hebrew. Baruch Atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim. We turn now to page 150 for Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Hukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochenu, kumenu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei toratecha, u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, u'ahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. ועבדתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
We're ready now for the watchword of our faith as we know it, the Shema. And we turn to page 152, and those who are able to do so, please rise or rise in spirit. Page 152, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please take a seat as we continue on page 154 with Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochpecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לעולכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אלוהיכם אמת.
There are many places in the world that could use God's sheltering presence, and that is what we are thinking about as we turn to the Hashki Venu prayer on page 160. Please send your thoughts to those near and far who are in need of that sheltering comfort at this time. Hashki Venu.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. העמידנו שומרנו
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukkot shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. And now a joyful song, the Vishamru, page 162, and this is a different melody than I think we've done in this congregation before. It's actually new to me. It's a South African folk tune. So we're going to sing it as a nigun, and Cantor Jake will help us all to learn it, and then we'll sing it together.
And one of our congregants, Susan Buck, not to name names, she said, this melody, Jake, is definitely older than you. So chances are, yeah, you've heard this one before, but if not, I hope that you'll sing at least the nigun on the Yai Dai with us. So it goes like this. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. And if you didn't know any Hebrew, you could sing it on Yai Dai, like I was about to, but I got so caught up in these beautiful words on the page, wanting us to keep Shabbat. Let's sing Yai Dai Dai on this one, all together now. Yai Dai 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 Dai, Yai Dai 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 Dai, Yai Dai 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 Dai, Yai Dai 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 Dai, Yai Dai 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 Lai 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 Lai. And now let's sing it as Vishamaru all together, and if at any point you want to sing Yai Dai Dai, you are invited and you are welcome to do so. Vishamaru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם, ביני ובין ובני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש.
In a moment, we will come to the tefillah, in which we will stand before the divine, however we conceive of that in our lives. But before we do, I'd like to read a kavanah, an intention for this prayer tonight. This is called Untie by Sheila Peltz-Weinberg. Dear God, we are bound with very tight knots. They choke off air and stop the blood from pulsating freely. The knots make us like computers with carefully controlled circuitry. The knots in our brains tie creativity, our link with you. We follow the knot around in its intricacy, but it remains a knot. The knots in our hearts keep us from crying and dancing when we long to. They tie us to the posts of the fences that separate us from each other. The knots in our muscles keep our teeth clenched, our jaws locked, our legs crossed, our shoulders stooped, our backs bent, our chests from inhaling and exhaling the full sweetness of life's breath. O God, untie all our knots. We rise now as we turn to page 164 for tefillah. After the first three blessings in the Hebrew, we will go into a time of silent prayer. Please be seated when you are finished with your own time of silent prayer. Page 164.
Adonai sifatai tivtachu fi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונה נטול אישי עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. עושה שלום שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, אמן. עושה שלום שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. ועל כל ישראל, אמן.
At this time, we think of those who are in need of healing of body, mind, spirit, or of all three. When you came in this evening, you may have received a list of the names of those whom we know to be in need of healing. And I will be looking at that list and praying for everyone on this list as we sing the Misha Berach. And in a moment, we will turn to page 371. And on page 371, you will find the words to the Debbie Friedman version of the Misha Berach, the one that is most familiar to everyone. Okay, and that is on page 371 in the middle. And I ask you, if you have a name or names of those you are thinking of who are in need of healing, to please say them at this sacred time in this sacred space aloud now. Chaim Herschel ben Avram Yitzchak, Ronnie Richard, Luba, Bat, Shaya Michael. So for all of those whom we have named, all of those on our list, and all of those in need of healing in all communities of the world, we sing this, Misha Berach, prayer for healing.
Of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Beirach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
This is only one of the first Shabbatot that we've been back in the sanctuary, and it's one of the first that I've been here in which we have had as many people as want to come to be here in person. And we have these wonderful cameras installed so that those who cannot be here with us in person can be with us nevertheless and worship with us. It's been a tough year for me as well, not being able to see and hear all of you. And I haven't realized that until being back here and hearing all of the wonderful, beautiful prayers of all of you. That's part of, I think, what makes the divine present, is really the space between us, the space between people, interaction. And it's so, so wonderful to have us all together this Shabbat. A few weeks ago, I saw a news story that really upset me, and like many of you, sometimes I find the news just too much to watch. I turn it off or just have to get away from it for a while, and especially when it involves the death and violence against children. And a few weeks ago was one of those times. I heard the story of the third child in just a few weeks that was killed by stray bullets in a road rage incident. Someone cut someone else off accidentally, and the man in the other car next to her took out a gun and started shooting. killing the woman's 6-year-old child in the back seat. Stories like these are infuriating and depressing. The fact that someone's poor driving could result in the person in the next car becoming so enraged that he tries to shoot her is just unfathomable. And yet there are many people so angry all the time that they have trouble keeping it to themselves and are just waiting for that little spark to ignite what they have inside. I think we can all relate to feeling angry sometimes, although, God willing, most of us don't take it to violent extremes. But many people express frustrations and ill temper in other, less violent but nonetheless unproductive ways. This week, an article on CNN Business described artificial intelligence that Facebook is testing to help people to stop arguing on their groups. I know all of us who've been on Facebook or other social media have probably had this experience where you see a comment or even make a comment, perhaps make a post, and someone comes on, you may not even know this person, and says something really inflammatory. And then someone else may counter that, or you yourself may counter that, and you get into this argument, and it starts to really get you upset. And because we have this distance between us, I think that for some people it's a lot easier to spill out that ire without fear of repercussion when we're not seeing the person. We're not feeling who this person, this human being is. It's just words on a screen. So in any case, Facebook is trying to utilize some new software tools for the over 70 million moderators of groups, Facebook groups, on their social networks to try to help people to help the moderators to stop the arguing by sending administrators conflict alerts when discussions start to get out of hand. And it's very interesting. If you go on CNN Business, it was just, I think, a day or two ago when this was on there, this article, and it tried it out. They tried it out by people arguing about Hellman's versus Miracle Whip or other kinds of things, just to test it out, because they didn't want to use anything that was really inflammatory, but just having people argue and try to control that with the AI. So hopefully that will be ready soon, but like most artificial intelligence, at least up till now, I expect it probably will have, a little bit of working out to do, and sometimes it will probably see something as an argument that isn't necessarily, or something that is an argument won't be caught, but at least they're trying. Because clearly there are many people who have difficulty controlling anger. So the book of Ecclesiastes tells us there is nothing new under the sun. And this is especially true when it comes to human psychology and emotions. This week's Torah portion, which is called Parshat Chukat, teaches that any one of us can succumb to our basest impulses. In this Torah portion, we find Moses himself giving in to his rage. So if you've been following the Torah portions, you've seen this trope over and over again of the Israelites complaining to Moses. Some even saying it was better to be in Egypt as slaves than to be here in this barren wilderness wandering around with not enough food or not the right food, or we want meat instead of manna. What is this manna stuff? So Moses has been getting a little ticked. He's getting a little upset. It's been over and over and over again. And so in this week's Parsha, the Israelites are complaining to him and to Aaron about their conditions. And this time they're grumbling about the lack of water in the desert. So Moses and Aaron go to God and ask for God's guidance. And God tells Moses and Aaron to go to a cluster of rocks and to speak to the rock. Tells Moses to speak to the rock and it will flow with water. And it's God we're talking about, so we've seen many, many miracles. This is yet another one. But instead of trusting in God to have this water flow or just allow it to happen, Moses decides to strike the rock. And not only once, but twice. And most rabbinic commentators feel that this is in his anger and rage at the Israelites for grumbling and mumbling all the time, and their impatience and threat to return to Egypt, rather than to trust that they will reach the promised land. And it is for this act of anger, the striking of the rock twice, that Moses is punished with not being able to enter Canaan, Eretz Yisrael himself. He is not able to go in. He's only able to see it from Mount Nebo, and that's at the end of the Torah. We see that happen, but he is not himself allowed to go in because of this act. Our ancient rabbis knew of the destructive force of anger and utilized this passage as the example of what can happen when we lose our tempers. The fact that even the greatest of our prophets could become overrun by his own emotions is instructive to all of us. Moses, who we are told spoke with God panim el panim, literally face to face, was, of course, still human. And the Talmud teaches that when leaders lose their control to anger, the entire world suffers. And that's in Tractate Kiddushin. The Talmud also teaches in Tractate Psachim, which is about Pesach, about the holiday of Passover. It also teaches that when a person becomes angry, wisdom departs from them. And if he is a prophet, his prophecy departs from him. Anger is an emotion. And like any emotion, it's all right to feel inside from time to time. Like I tell my own kids, you can feel angry all you want. It's just what you do with that anger. That is the problem, right? And anger can actually lead to positive results if the emotion is as a result of righteous indignation about the suffering of others and inspires us to do works of social justice, mitzvot, leading to tikkun olam. When we're angry on behalf of someone else who's being ill-treated, that's a good and righteous anger that can be used toward the betterment of the world. But when rage is self-motivated and leads to hurtful behavior toward others, it only diminishes our own dignity as well as our relationship with others. Rarely does a spate of angry venting at one's loved one actually result in a positive effect on that relationship. More often, the person yelling or letting off steam ends up feeling remorseful and apologetic. And the relationship is hindered rather than enhanced as a result of the encounter. I had heard a therapist once tell people who are couples in therapy that in every interaction with your spouse or loved one, your beloved, that it can be either a positive and bring you closer or a negative and bring you further. So it's your choice at any given moment which that encounter will be. I'm convinced that there is more love in the world than there is hate, and that there are more helpful people out there than violent ones. But the loving, helpful people are quietly going about their business, while the angry, gun-toting lunatics get all the attention. And we should remember that whenever we see these horrible news stories. I like to try to tune in to the good news. There's a Sunday morning show that I like to watch, the Sunday morning CBS. Anyone watch this with the sons? All of those, that's nice news about good things happening in the world. And we should remember that there's a lot of good in the world, and I wouldn't have chosen this vocation if I didn't believe that we can cultivate that good. But let us learn what not to do from Moses, our greatest teacher. Let us model the behavior that we wish to see in the world. We can speak our minds and have disagreements with others, but let's not let our passions overwhelm us. Holding our tempers may be the only thing keeping others from doing that as well. Our world deserves the calm that we all can bring to any discourse and the good that we can bring into all of our activities. I wish you all Shabbat Shalom. And now we continue with the concluding prayers of our service, beginning with the Aleinu, which will turn to page 586. And those who are able to, please rise as the ark is opened for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please take a seat. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty, but soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more, at least no more in our sight. I like to think of God taking back that light into the shamash that God uses to light the menorah of the world. So each of us loses that light to this world in that same way, but we return to our shamash. With our lives we give life, and something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. At this time, we recall those whose yahrzeits, the anniversary of their passing, are acknowledged by their names being lit on the plaque surrounding us in this sanctuary. Elsie Aaron, Phyllis Addis, Shirley Becker, Murray Collier, Jacob Eiferman, Henry J. Friedman, Lillian Cohn, Leonard P. Coilis, Florence Larva, Ruth Lieberman, Morton H. Meyer, Joseph Sandow, Louis Saslaw, Eva R. Schulich, Stephen David Siegel, Merrill Simon Burkhoff, Louis Solomon, Herbert Soroka, and Rosalie Widoff. Others recalled at this time: Arnie Botwinick, Lucia Bradley Dunton, Alexander Eischen, Gordon Hyde, Darren Payne, Ian Payne, Rose Primus, Rhea Robert, Esther Scheib, Harriet Sokol, Edith Stern, Fanny Strauss, Betty Teitelbaum, and Milton Tronfeld. We also recall with sadness the more recent passings of Albert Malin, Susan Edelstein, and Bruce Shaughnessy. If you are thinking of someone whom I have not named, please say their name aloud as I gesture around the room. And those joining us and worshiping somewhere else tonight and watching the service, please say the names of your loved ones if you are thinking of someone I have not named at this time as well. And so now, in memory of all those whom we have named, as well as honoring all of those who were murdered in the Shoah, we rise in solidarity with mourners everywhere as we turn to page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah be'amad yivarach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mivorach leolam ul almei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'ama v'imru Amen. Yehei shalom arab min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who mourn among us. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
Please take a seat as we conclude with our concluding song. Havenu Shalom Alechem.
Before we do, I just needed something real quick to wet my whistle. So thanks a lot to the shoemakers for leaving a little bit of this Manischewitz in the cup for the last song. We're going to need that. So as Rabbi Aviva began the service with, we want to hear you. You've heard us. You've heard us. We want to hear you. So you know this one. We all know this one. There might be some times where neither of us are singing, but we want to hear the congregation rocking. So we just want to hear you sing out, sing it loud. Havenu Shalom Alechem. Thanks for being with us, friends. Havenu Shalom Alechem. Havenu Shalom Alechem. Havenu Shalom Alechem. Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. All right, here we go. Get those hands clapping. Here. Heveinu shalom alechem. Heveinu shalom alechem. Heveinu shalom alechem. Heveinu shalom, shalom, shalom alechem. Let's see if we can go a little faster. Here we go. I want to hear you sing. 1, 2, congregation. Heveinu Heveinu shalom, shalom, shalom alechem. Heveinu shalom alechem. Heveinu shalom alechem. Heveinu shalom alechem. Heveinu shalom, shalom, shalom alechem. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Nice service. Shabbat shalom. Whoops. Okay.